Ben Goertzel here. I've been seeing a bunch of noise on the internet about my interactions with Jeffrey Epstein and my appearance in the Epstein email files. And so I just wanted to say something to clarify, what the actual deal was. I'm going to write something down for those who want more detail, but I figure there's value to voice and video to get a little more nuance across. So I apologize for the humble background. I just checked into a random hotel room in Seoul, South Korea, and I'm here to talk to some local contacts about setting up an AGI research lab here, sort of keeping up the same push for beneficial AGI that led me to deal with fucking Epstein in the first place. So yeah, I did know Epstein for about 17 years, accepted bits and pieces of research funding from him over the years. I didn't know him super well personally, but weren't buddy-buddy. I always met with him in office settings, and it was always centered on me pitching him AGI and telling him why beneficial AGI is the most important thing in the history of our species and why he should put some of his money into it, right? And I didn't go on his plane or visit his island or party with him or something. It was always like an office pitching type of setting. But, I mean, when I think about it now, knowing what we know about him now, it's quite disgusting to me that I was dealing with this guy in the past. I mean, I have 5 kids myself. I have 3 sons and 2 daughters and a little granddaughter. Like the idea that one of my daughters or my granddaughter or their friends when they're teenagers could be, sucked into the vortex of some exploitative pervert like this. I mean, it's a disgusting sort of thought. And the idea that I was there sitting across a desk from him, pitching him, AGI is going to save the world. And then, that afternoon or the next day, he was in the next room over, exploiting teenage girls. I mean, this is not what I realized was going on at the time. And it's pretty sickening to me that I sort of unwittingly was so close to such fucked up things. I was introduced to Epstein in 2001 in New York by another scientist who had received funding from him. And, at the time I was essentially flat broke, didn't know where I was going to come up with rent to and house and feed my wife and 3 small children. And, he ended up, shortly after our first meeting, donating $100,000 to the University of New Mexico to cover a research fellowship for me for a year to do research on AGI. At the time, AGI was not super big time, right? This was 2001. I published the book Artificial General Intelligence, but the concept on the map in 2005, 4 years after that. So at that time when I first met Epstein, AGI was by most people considered up there with time travel, psychic powers and voodoo. Nobody took it very seriously. So to meet this guy who had a huge amount of money, who was willing to put even a little bit of it toward AGI, I mean, this was pretty remarkable. I could see he was kind of a weird dude, but I'd met other billionaires before. They're all kind of eccentric, right? He just seemed like another billionaire who was very interested in the trappings of wealth and status. And I didn't have the psychological savvy to recognize that he was worse than another playboy billionaire and was actually like an utterly fucked up child molester, right? I wish I had seen that at the time. I didn't see that at the time. After that initial research grant, over the next 17 years, I recruited maybe another couple of $100,000 altogether of donations from him into different AGI-oriented entities I was involved with, and wasn't a major feature of my life. Like, this wasn't some big patronage thing. recruit a bunch more money and spend a bunch more time with a lot of other funding sources, right? And in general, trying to do AGI at that time, you were pitching. There's so many different potential funding sources. Epstein was like a little footnote in there, and not my favorite funding source to deal with. More like one of the last ditch guys you would go to for something. And where I feel I made a mistake was 2008. He went to jail for 5 months, and I met with him not long before that, and he told me he was going to jail. He said he'd been framed by some political opponents for a bunch of bullshit, and pretty much I believed him, right? I mean, it seemed a little weird, but this sort of shit can happen. I don't know that much about, political hijinks in high places. And, in hindsight, when I look at some of the emails I sent him around that time, it looks pretty cringe to me, but I was social engineered by the dude, right? Like, I believe what he said about why he was sent to jail. Honestly, I had a lot of other shit going on in my life. I was going through a tough divorce with 3 small kids. There was financial crisis in late 2008, which was putting my AI consulting businesses in a lot of trouble. So, doing online research to dig into Epstein's problems was very low on my priority list, right? But that's something I would do differently now. If I was raising money for a project now, I would do some real due diligence into whoever's putting the money in. But that's me at age 59, like incorporating the lessons I've learned through life, including the lessons of being social engineered by fucking Jeffrey Epstein, right? And that's pretty much what it was, right? I feel bad that the guy sort of snowed me into not seeing what kind of creature he was, but in hindsight, I can see how he did it, right? He was really a masterful social engineer. Look at Leslie Wexner, who's a super successful businessman, and Epstein social engineered him out of hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And you look at Harvard, you look at Stanford, MIT, then Marvin Minsky, the founder of AI, Noam Chomsky, the founder of linguistics, and there's a who's who of great scientists. I'm sure almost none of these guys, or maybe none of them, was aware of all the nasty shit that Epstein was up to. He was just really good at putting on a certain facade and making himself seem different than what he was. And when you're social engineered and scammed by someone, like in hindsight, it always seems like, oh shit, why didn't I see that at the time? But the thing is, I was just living my life at the time and not scrutinizing him that carefully, whereas he was very carefully calculating the impression he gave, right? And so, it disgusts me what he was doing with teenage girls, which we can see exposed now, and I had no idea what it was at the time. And it disgusts me that I was a small part of his campaign to make himself look fancier and wash his reputation. But nevertheless, I need to just clarify, like, that's what it was, right? I met with him about AGI in office settings. I pitched him for money a lot of times. A few times he said yes. I had nothing to do with his crimes. I had nothing to do with his social life and so forth. And there's nothing much more to it than that. I regret being involved with him. I have all the sympathy in the world for his victims, and I hope that this release of these email files, while annoying and embarrassing for me, I hope it does something to help his victims get some sort of partial compensation for everything he put them through. And I also hope if there's more Epstein emails out there that they also get released, because there may be more to this story, right?